Okay, so let's talk about the peer reviews and topics for the research paper and get a little farther into the syllabus. I do require some peer reviews, and that just means that you're exchanging papers with someone and you are commenting on that person's draft. If you turn a draft in late, or if you don't turn in one at all, you do not get to participate in the peer review for that essay. Okay? Because I'm going to pair up people who have their papers in the Dropbox folder. And I'm not going to, try to wait for everybody to get their late paper in when other people have already done what they were supposed to do and submitted their work. So, if you submit your paper late, you aren't going to get to do the peer review. And of course you can't do one if you didn't turn a paper in, because you don't have anything to contribute as far as the essay goes, okay? Topics for the research paper. I do have some topics that I have stated are off limits. Now, let me go through some of those. I have banned the topics of abortion, gay marriage, cloning, gun control / gun bans, animal rights, capital punishments, the legalization of marijuana, global warming, separation of church and state, vaccine safety, euthanasia, the existence of Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, mermaids, or other cryptids. Okay, and I haven't banned these because I don't like the topic or because I'm somehow morally or politically opposed to these topics. No, I've banned these topics because they are nearly impossible for students to write about well. All right, and not to say that people can't write about these topics, but I think it requires someone who may be more sophisticated as a writer, have more experience. But beyond that, it's hard for almost anybody to write about some of these topics without kind of letting a rather unarguable mind frame or position to take over. Okay? So people might end up using support that's not really evidence. It's more just like opinion. Okay? So that's why I've banned many of these topics. Now, as far as the existence of Bigfoot, extraterrestrials, things like that, I find stuff like that fascinating. I love reading about things like that. However, you probably will not have success in your research paper if you try to argue that. Okay? If you want to write about something that's related to that, you might try examining like sociological or psychological relationships to those that speculation. Like not so much do these things exist, but why might people think they exist? What psychological need does it fulfill? Or why are people so fascinated by extraterrestrials? What is it about our culture that creates that? So instead of, does this exist or not? Instead, I'm trying to offer you something that's you can more easily get a handle on. Okay. You can also look at some of the best topics that students have written about, and what I mean by best is these students have actually been able to create a very engaging, strong essay, and that they have plenty of support, and they make a very good case for what they're arguing for. One of these papers was called Regular Unleaded Please, and that was about the drawbacks of alternative fuels. And this was written a few years ago, but it was back when everybody was saying that ethanol was fantastic and green energy was the way to go. And this student was arguing against that. And he actually made a really intriguing, well-founded argument. Another essay was Taji Against the World, and that was about the annual Japanese dolphin hunt. That was a fascinating essay. There was another essay called The Essential Therapy for the Disabled Child. That student wrote about equine therapy, using horses to help children with disabilities. Fascinating paper, again. All those papers actually won writing awards at this school. So, and I know the students worked so hard on those essays, because I saw what they were doing as the semester progressed, and those turned out to be really great essays. Another one called Praying Mantids, Booner Bus for Gardening. Okay, that was a great essay too. But one thing that all of these essays have in common is that the students were personally interested in these topics. I mean, they really cared about these topics. They had some experience, some personal investment in these ideas. Okay, so I encourage you to come up with a topic that you really care about, that you have, that you might have some knowledge about it. You don't always have to have a lot of knowledge about these topics. You can discover that knowledge as you do your research, but try to pick something that you really care about, is what I'm trying to say. Also, we need to talk about the impression grade. When you go in for a job interview, what do you think your potential employer is looking at? I know when I've asked students this question in the past, they say, well, they look to see that you're dressed professionally. How do you conduct yourself? What is your demeanor? What seems to be your attitude? What are your facial expressions? So every day we know that people judge us. I'm not saying it's fair, okay? But I'm saying that we have to understand that people make judgments about us every day. And we want to make sure, I think, that we treat college much like we would a job, okay? We want to make a good impression. We want to make sure that people perceive us the way we want to be perceived, So one of my goals is to encourage you to think about the impression that you're making. And I do have a couple of handouts on Momentum that talk about making a positive impression and making a negative impression. So I think it's important that you look at both of those handouts and you figure out the things that you're doing well, but also think about the things that you might not be doing so well. You might not even realize you're doing these negative things, okay? So it's important to take a look at that. I do explain in the syllabus how I grade you on that. Another way to think about this grade is professionalism. Are you being professional? And I think those two handouts can help you a great deal. If some of you might be, well aware of impressions, but other people might not be, so it's important to take a look at those. The next thing I want to look at is discussion postings in the syllabus. So several times during the semester, I will have you respond to a prompt in the discussion section. And that means you need to have read the reading, or you need to have watched the video in order to know what you're supposed to talk about in a discussion. But several times during the semester, I will have you make discussion postings, and I will have you do them within a particular window of time in order to receive credit, okay? Because it does you no good if you get all semester to complete it and you just do everything in the last day of class. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't help you as much as it would if you did it during a certain time, like right after the reading or right after watching a video. So the discussion postings are also graded on how relevant they are to what I'm asking, okay? How insightful they are, right? I also grade grammar and style too, because that's important. You want to make sure you express yourself clearly. But insightful, what do I mean by insightful? Are you able to tell us, I don't just say tell me because you'll be, the other members of the class will be able to see your discussion response, but are you actually digging into important matters when you answer this question or address this topic, okay? So are you just kind of BSing your way through it, or are you actually thinking about it and giving really thoughtful and helpful responses? That's kind of what I'm getting at there. There will be a final exam. Toward the end of the term, you will write a timed essay, but we can talk about that topic later in the semester. Let me stop there, and then we can talk about the Learning Resource Center in the next video.